Good afternoon and welcome everybody to this month's training webinar. We've changed the format slightly this month to splitting the training session out into 3 different sessions. The last few months we tried to squeeze it into one that was just too much. So this month we've got the getting started. Beginning of January we've got the moving on. So if after this training session you've got this and you want to try what's next, you can try the moving on. And then beginning of February we have the administering connecting steps and Eversense webinar. So as with all our other webinars, the webinar comes in 2 sections. So we've got the main presentation, which is me going through the software. I'll try and do it in about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Then there's a chance for anyone to ask any questions. As with all of our webinars, all your microphones are muted, so you can hear me. If you have any questions, you can either save it to the Q&A section at the end, or you do have a chat window and you can type them in. Sometimes I answer them as they come in. It depends what the question is and will it change where we're going next. So any questions, please ask away. The webinar will be uploaded to our website. So if after you've watched this, you want to share this with colleagues or you want to rewatch it, it will be up on our blog. So bsquared.co.uk/blog later this week. I haven't done the handouts yet. We haven't had a chance yet. And there isn't a survey this time. But you will find on the blog, I will put a link to the little training brochure we have. So you can download that. But hopefully after today, you will feel really confident about using connecting steps. So as part of this webinar, I'm going to just go through the different frameworks we currently have on offer, because within my system you're going to see lots of frameworks, and depending on your setting, where you are, will depend on what you're going to be using. I'll cover how to log in, how the software works. So as part of that, I'm going to look through different levels of engagement, and I really recommend using them. So if your school doesn't, please encourage them to use them. Working on multiple levels, how we encourage it and how it works and what it does, how to show progress. I'll cover one is a level complete, just making everyone just think about what that means. And then at the end, I'll just make sure I'm going to cover baselining, because that's really crucial when you're starting out. And if you don't baseline correctly, then your progress will show incorrectly as well. So it's really important. So I'm going to go through frameworks country by country. Luckily, there's only 3 of them, so it won't take us too long. So the first one is England. So a lot of our customers are still using the LP levels of national curriculum. We've been running that in the software since 2001. So you've got 2001, 2007, or 2014. And the 2014 one is where we first introduced end-of-year outcomes. As it says there, pupils over the age of 5, and this has now been replaced by our new progression steps, primary steps, and engagement steps, which are based on the Rochford Review recommendations and the new pre-key stage standards. Our early steps framework, this is, it says here, based on 2012 early years foundation stage for pupils under the age of 5. And that covers the 17 areas all the way from birth up to the exceeded early learning goals. That is going to be reviewed, I believe, in 2020. Adult steps, this is an old framework from 2007. It's based on the old pre-entry or milestones and the entry levels for numeracy and literacy. So generally designed for pupils over the age of 14. And we are working on a new one at the moment called Steps for Life, which will replace adult steps and also bring in life skills and vocational skills, as well as the academic skills. So these are our 3 new ones. So with the new Rochford Review and all the changes the government's recommending, they have the phrase pupils not yet engaged in subject-specific learning, and that's what engagement steps is for. And the government's aim is for children working below P4. This isn't finalised yet by the government. They released a document on the 22nd of November, which is a review of the pilot, which wasn't that successful in the way the Rochford Review recommended things to happen. But we agree with that anyway, because it wasn't a good approach. If you have purchased engagement steps or are thinking about it, what we've agreed with all our customers is if you purchase this, when the government does finally decide what's going to happen, we will update the engagement steps free of charge to keep it in line with the government's recommendations. The next two frameworks are similar. It's just how we have set the level structure up. So progression steps is for pupils engaged in subject-specific learning, and where we recommend using it is in special schools and secondary mainstream settings for pupils with SEND. As it says there, it covers from about P4 up to level 7. So within the progression steps, we've got 10 levels. The first 6 are in line with the new pre-key stage standards, but are much broader and designed to be used throughout the key stage, not just at the end of the key stage. There's a lot more going on in there. And the primary steps covers the same sort of range, but that's generally recommended for primary schools. It's above progression step 3, it moves to end of year outcomes. So for primary schools, which are used to using the language of year 1, year 2, year 3, it gives them the same language, but the years are broken down into more depth, so you can show the smaller steps within each year. So for that reason, it works well for the primary schools using it for their pupils with SEND. Because if they use progression steps, it'll be introducing a brand new language, which only they'll be using with a few of the pupils. The other one, if you're using progression steps or primary steps, you will see another framework called standardized steps. So what this framework contains are the statements in the pre-key stage standard for key stages 1 and 2. So it's got the exact statements from the government, and what you'll see from these is these are embedded in the progression steps and the primary steps. The idea is as you use the progression steps and the primary steps for your ongoing assessment, it will automatically be recording the achievements against the pre-key stage standards. So at the beginning of year 6, beginning of year 2, you can go and have a look at how they're doing against the pre-key stage standards and just see what skills they've got left. But you don't generally work on the standardized steps. You work on the primary steps or the progression steps and just go and have a look at the standardized steps to see how they're doing and where they're working. Important bit I'll just clarify on is the standardized steps in the government's eyes is secure fit. So they have to achieve everything, although you can do some adaptation, whereas the progression steps and the primary steps are a best fit approach. For schools in Scotland, we have our Steps to Excellence framework. So this covers the 8 areas of the curriculum for excellence and covers the pre-entry or milestones all the way up to 4th. Completely different language in Scotland compared to England, but quite a few things overlap. But that covers the full area in a very similar way we do for everything else. If you're a school in Wales, we have 2 frameworks we've built specifically for Wales, the Welsh Foundation stage. So it's different to the English one. The English one goes up to 5, the Welsh goes up to age 7. And as it says here, it covers the bronze, silver and gold and the 6 outcomes. In Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 2 in Wales, you're still using the old levels. And that's based on the latest LNF and has the English, Maths and Welsh as a second language. What's interesting in Wales, we have a lot of schools in Wales using our software, but the majority of them are still using the English schools content because it covers a wider range of subjects. That will be changing once all the Donaldson review is out the way, and that will be happening, I think, 2020-21, and we'll be covering the rest of the curriculum, all the frameworks in Wales. And the last framework to mention is Autism Progress. So if you have this in your school, this is an additional framework which goes alongside your main tracking system. It can be used for pupils with SEND. It can be used for pupils who are on your main assessment system. So you may be using them with another assessment system for your mainstream pupils working at age-related expectations. You can still use Autism Progress for them. So Autism Progress, as it says here, covers communication, social interaction, emotional regulation, and flexibility of thought. And it's designed to build a detailed profile of that person's autism and then help you identify what those next steps are. It's very different to how you'd use our other frameworks, because this is more about profiling and less about progress. And we did run a webinar last week on Autism Progress. So if you head to our blog, you can go watch that and find out more about Autism Progress. So that's the frameworks out of the way. So when I go in, I'll generally be using the progression steps or the primary steps. because that's where my data is. But all the different frameworks work in exactly the same way. It's just the level and the content that's different. So whatever you've got in your school, it will all work exactly the same. So to log on, that's the address you're going to use, uk.connectingsteps.com. Unless you are one of those people in the Southern Hemisphere logging in from New Zealand, in which case you'll use, I believe it's nz.connectingsteps.com or www.connectingsteps.nz. But everyone in the UK, you're going to log on using that. So I'm just going to do now is I'm now going to switch to the software and just change my screen I'm sharing. So you should now all be seeing connecting steps. So on here, I've got my login information already in. When it comes to setting you up, your system administrator should be inviting you. If you are the system administrator, because you're the only person in your school, we would have emailed your details to you and you would have changed your password once you've logged in. If you ever forget your password, click on the Forgot Password button and you can reset your password yourself. If you have reset your password, when you try and log in, you won't be able to log in here unless you're an administrator. You'll have to make sure you go back to Connecting Steps and log in here. I will just draw attention to this. So at the bottom, you've got this is a public or shared computer, or this is a private computer. So by default, the system will time out after 20 minutes. If you change to this is a private computer, the timeout changes to an hour. So that way, if you're not using the system, but you're using it as reference, it will be longer till it times out. So I'm just going to click on login and let it log in. So on the home screen, I'll keep zooming in and out to show you the different bits I need to make sure it's nice and visible. But what you'll see on the home screen, you have the main areas within the software in the middle. You're going to see the news on the left, and my login's taking a very long time. My browser's crashed, I'm going to close that down. If you just give me a minute. My computer just seems to be losing internet connection, so just give me a second. Yeah, someone has broken my login or something else has happened. There we go, that's logged in now. I'm just going to make sure you can see my correct screen. So can someone just confirm they can see the login, the main screen of Connecting Steps for me before I continue? Thank you. Excellent, cool. So this is the home screen. I don't know what was going on with my internet connection, but that was me rather than our software. So on the left, you've got news from us. So latest information, latest guidance, things that we think will interest you or you need to know. And the main three sections which I'll go through today are the assessments, the individual reports, and the group reports. So I'm just going to sort of go over those three areas. I won't touch the administration and I won't touch CSAM. If your school has CSAM, again, we've run a webinar on that. You can go over to our blog to watch that. What I always like to draw attention to first, because a lot of people sometimes feel a bit lost, is all the feedback says we provide excellent support and it is one of our priorities. So if I click on this question mark here and I need to delete something, I can just search for delete, I can push enter, and it gives me lots of articles. So I can click on deleting an assessment point, and I can see here how to delete an assessment point. So there's lots of help there. If it doesn't give me the answer I need, I can always click send a message, type in my email address, type in my message and hit send, and off that will go, and we will get back to you as quickly as possible. At the top, we've got a question mark with a magnifying glass. That is our support site. If you click on that, it takes you to the main support site. There are lots and lots and lots of articles. If you really enjoy the GDPR, you can actually read 30-odd articles all about the GDPR. If you don't like it, you don't have to. But it is there if you're really that way inclined. So as it says up here, here's our phone number. So if you're the sort of person who, rather than emailing back and forth or doing that, you just want to talk to someone, give us a call. That's what that number's there for. Give us a call, we will answer the phone, and we will get you on your way as quickly as possible. What I often say to schools when I come out and do training is give yourselves a couple of minutes to find the answer. If you can't find the answer in a couple of minutes, just give us a call. We generally know what you're trying to do with just a few clues, and we can get you on your way much quicker than if you're just having a look around and trying to work out what to do. So back to connecting steps. So I'm going to go straight into assessments. There's a couple of options. I'm going to use the individual assessment screen first because this is the one that the majority of our customers use. As it says here, make your selection and click display. So if I click on selection, at the top I've got my class. So I can choose the AP class, I can choose my pupil. I will then choose frameworks. You can see how many frameworks we've got, but I'm going to go for the progression steps. I will choose English, I will choose reading. And then I'm going to try primary steps. Primary steps, English reading. Once you've chosen that, if your pupils are already set up, you can just hit current level. It'll work out what level Vanessa is working at in English reading and take me to that level. So she's currently working on year 2. Okay, so whichever framework I'm looking at, all that's changing is the subjects, how we've organized things, and the levels. Everything works the same as I said before. So what we're looking at here is really a piece of paper on the screen. We've done that for a number of reasons. It keeps the content to a manageable size because you can look at everything on one piece of paper. It also means if I do print it out, so using this printer icon in the top right, the printout will look exactly like what I'm expecting, no shocks. So I can use it in paper or I can use it online. It works either way. Personally, I would always stick to the computer, but depending on your situation, printing out paper files may make life easier. Where you keep seeing BDMI collection, that is just the silly name of our test school, so it'll have your school name there, and here, if you have your logo in the system, it will have your school logo. On the right, it's got the subject, the level, the area, and the today's date. It then has the pupil I'm looking at, when she started on this level, and the percentage complete. Okay. So in the boxes, I've got a number of different things. So I've got greens, make it a bit bigger. I've got greens and I've got yellows. And you can see with the different yellows, I've got different shades. So I've got a very pale N, I've got a medium E and a dark U. So with us, it's not just a case of can or can't. Anything green is achieved where they can. Anything blank or anything yellow is they can't yet achieve independently. So what the yellows show is where children are engaging, so that they are involved in that activity, but they haven't achieved it independently. Within the system, you can choose how many different levels you want. There are up to 7 different levels you can choose. Now, in most schools, 7 is going to be a complete overkill. It's up to you to find out what works for you. For them to be used successfully, you need to know what they mean. So generally, when I walk into a school, my recommendation for the majority of schools as a starting point is to start off with 2, and they are engagement and gaining skills and understanding. And the simplest definition for that is engagement will be their starting to, and gaining skills they're almost there. Some schools also turn on encounter. It depends on your children. So encounter basically comes down as they were in the room when it happened. Okay, and they're the 3 you can see here. So the pale N is the encounter, the middle and the E is engagement, and the U is the gaining skills and understanding. Now, on its own, the encounter isn't giving me much useful information. It's just showing me I've given that child access. But I think where it does start coming useful is when you move on from encounter onto engagement or onto gaining skills and understanding. It shows you that that child has now decided to be involved and is making progress. As I said, it's important to have a definition of what they all mean within your school. And if you go to our support site and search for definitions, you will see there's an article, Definitions for the Levels of Achievement. And you'll see here I have definitions for all the different levels of achievement. Okay, so the definition for encounter and so on. So use these as your starting point. You may need to adapt these to suit your school. What I haven't said with the masters is what is the definition of when something is mastered. I have just left it as you are confident the pupil can achieve the skill. I've not said 4 out of 5 or a particular way. That is down to your professional judgment as a teacher. Some systems where you can only mark things as they achieved it or they haven't. A lot of people feel the pressure to sort of run to mastered, even if they haven't quite achieved it. The child's done really well, but they haven't. And they kind of use mastered before the child is actually mastered. So they mark something as achieved if the child's done it once, because they feel pressure to show progress. What I generally say is you can rush to gaining skills and understanding, and it says here that people may even achieve the task but cannot repeat the achievement. So if you do it once, yeah, gaining skills and understanding in straight away. But it's coming back to that and seeing if they can do it a number of times in different ways, all that stuff. When you're confident, then move on to mastered. So yeah, please use a couple of these and find out what your school's using. So what you will find is if when you click on this box, you only see a few of these, that is all the school has chosen to use. So the process has already happened. If you're seeing all 7 in your school, you may not be aware you can turn them off, or you might be using all 7. But do ask the administrator which ones you're going to be using and go from there. If you click on this here, select achievements to add, and you're just seeing green, please recommend them to use some yellows because they really are useful and they're great ways of showing really small steps of progress. Okay, so that's the different greens and yellows. What I'll be really clear on here is at the moment this child has achieved 22% of this level. So what the system has done there is counted up all the green boxes and worked out what percentage of the boxes are green. Okay, so the yellows don't affect that percentage complete. But we can show progress to them in a different way, which I'll show you in a minute. So if I want to make a box green, so I click on mastered, I click on that one there, we're now on 24%. If I click on that one there, we're on 25. Click on that one there, we're on 27. So every time I make one of these boxes green, that percentage complete is going to go up. All nice and easy. If I put some yellows in, as I said, that percentage complete isn't going up. Okay, so it's just the greens which affect the percentage complete. How we show progress with the yellows is using the pie chart, which you will find under levels data. So on the left, we've got a number of tabs written sideways. The one I'm going to just change to is level status. And then when I've finished, I'm going to click back on selection to get back to here. So if I click on level status and click pie chart, what this will bring up is show you the percentage of mastered, the percentage gaining skills and understanding, the percentage engaged, and the percentage encountered. Okay, so it's nice and easy to see what that child has achieved, where they are with the rest of the skills, and what they haven't started yet. So you get a really nice, simple overview. And just like the individual page, I've got a printer icon in the top right, so I can print that out. Okay, so that's always useful. Now what I'll show you something really cool in a bit, which is how you can do that over time. Okay, so I've shown you how to record the information. I've put a mastered in, percentage complete's gone up. What if I've made a mistake? So we've made this really easy as well. So on the left, if I click on the history tab and click on the assessment I've just recorded, you'll see it says mastered, it's got the date, and if I hover over there, it tells me who entered. So if you see an achievement, you're thinking that child can't do that, you can click on it, go to the history, and it'll tell you who marked that as achieved. But if I have made a mistake, all I have to do is tick delete. As I do that, that box disappears and goes blank. So if I do it again for this one on the right, I do that, tick delete, that skill will disappear, and as I do that, the percentage complete drops down again. Okay, but if I click on this one again where it's all blank, I can tick show deleted achievements, and anything that's been deleted will reappear in red. Okay, and it will also tell me who deleted that skill as well. Okay, so if you make a mistake, delete things nice and easy. So things I can do, extra things you might not realise. So I can mark a skill as achieved. A couple of months later, it might be after the summer holidays, I come back to that skill, I try it again, and the child can't do it anymore. And I might think it's going to take me a while to get this skill back. So what I can do is, I'm not saying they never had it, because before the summer I was confident they could do that, but right now I'm confident they can't. So what I can do is I can overwrite this mastered with an engagement. That will drop the percentage complete down, but the mastered still remains. So if these are on different dates, it will be mastered up until the date they regressed. Okay, so as well as showing forward progress, it can also show that regression. Okay, so hopefully all nice and easy. I'll just show you a few things that some people don't realise. So everything I've been entering with today's date, the current date. But what I can do is I can change this date back to September the 3rd. I can do the mastered, and I'm going to mark that one as mastered. If I go look at the history for that assessment point, that was achieved on the 3rd of September. So as I change this date at the bottom back, I can backdate my achievements as well. This date here is a date I am looking at information for. So if I take this one back to the 3rd of September and click display, what that will do, it will reload all of this information to show me where that pupil is on the 3rd of September. On the 3rd of September, the pupil had only achieved 15% of that level, and you can see how different that level looks. And this is where the really nice bit comes in. If I go to that level status and click on the pie chart, it will show me the percentage at complete and gaining skills and engagement on the 3rd of September. So I can print that one out. I can then come back to the T for today. That will bring me up to date. Go to the level status and click on the pie chart here. And now I can see where that child has moved to now. So I can see that progress, even if it means that actually the no more skill has been independently achieved. I can see they're achieving things with support. That's moved on. I can see that progress no matter how small. Okay, so all nice and easy, as I keep saying, because it really is. Often when I go to do training, they always say, oh, it's fine, you're flying around easily, but what about me? And generally what people find is when they start using it, it is easy to navigate. There's just a few questions they've got, a few bits they're unsure on, and that generally passes really quickly. So to come to this level, I hit current level, and that took me straight to year 2 because that's where the child is working. As I said earlier, you can work on as many different levels as you want. So what I can do here is I can click on this right arrow. I can now have a look at year 3, and I can record on year 3 what this pupil can also do on year 3. So it might be she's doing really well with the word reading, but struggling with the comprehension. So I can work across both levels. Year 2 is her current level, and that's where we will take you to. You can work on the level above, and that will show up in a couple of reports when you look at the progress. So if I hit current level, it will still take me back to that year 2 because that is her current level. But for us, working across multiple levels is a requirement for pupils with SEND, and even for some of the mainstream pupils, it's a requirement. So I'm just going to cover everything apart from one button, which I'll come back to later. So I've covered selecting pupils, selecting the groups, selecting my frameworks, and what I will just show you for those using the primary steps or progression steps. So we've got a statement here, reads most words accurately without overt sounding. I'm going to mark that as mastered with today's date. So I've marked that as mastered. If I now change to the standardized steps, so these are the pre-key stage standards, and I look at the key stage 2, because it'll be a stage 6, and pick English reading. I think that was a pre-key stage standard 6 one. It might be a 5. There is that statement there. The exact same statement, and it's filled in with a green box. Okay, so as I said, as you work on those primary steps and the progression steps, it will automatically be filling in the pre-key stage standards for you as you go. So just something small which makes your lives that bit easier. So I'll go back to primary steps. Pick English reading, and I'll hit current level, and it takes me there. So that's the selection bar. All nice and simple, and that's what you're going to use day in, day out. Level status, so this tab gives me some numbers, but the biggest thing it gives me is this pie chart button, which is really useful. The history tab allows me to see when something was recorded, and I can delete if I've made a mistake. So that's what history. And comments, so this bit I haven't touched on yet. So on some of these boxes, you can see there are blue bars down the side. Okay, so those blue bars tell me there's a comment. So if I click on that one there, click on view comments. So on the 6th of November, I wrote, we have used. Okay, so as you record, it tells you who's recorded it, when, what the comment was. So that was for that one. I click on that one, we have tried. So I always write really interesting comments. If I use this view comments, I get to see all the comments across the whole level. I always seem to be writing we have tried, we have used, or we have tried. But add a comment is really easy. So if I want to say how we've been working on this one, all I have to do is click on there, click on add a comment. We use it. I'll try something different. So I can write my comment, what we've used, how we've adapted the skill to suit that child's needs, what I had to do to get that child engaged, how do you have to motivate, whatever that thing. It can just help other teachers next year, help them on how to engage with that child. So if I click on save, as I've done that, it's put the blue bar down the side. And if I click on the view comments, the one I've just recorded goes to the top because it's the latest, and I can scroll through all the comments. Okay, so the comments are optional. It's one of the things which does help tell the story. Rather than just ticking boxes, you can help trying to say how you've had to adapt things and things like that. You can, if you use Eversense, not only can you add comments, you can add photos and videos if you use Eversense as well. So that's a nice little feature. But that generally is the end of the individual assessments page. And generally what I've shown you on this sidebar, you're going to use that throughout the rest of the software. So some bits come and go, but generally the way it works is exactly the same. So I'm just going to go through a couple of different screens. So this individual, I'm looking at one pupil, one subject, one level. If I go to group assessment by level, on this screen, I'm choosing a group, but I'm not going to choose a pupil. But instead, I'll still choose my English reading year 2. I'll click display. And what this will show me is all the pupils in class AP and how they're doing against the English reading year 2 target. So if I zoom out a bit and just rerun that, it makes the layout slightly nicer. So what you'll see here, I'll have all my pupils across the top, all the skills down the side. Okay, and anything I entered on the individual page comes here. Anything I enter here goes to the individual page. So I added a comment earlier for Vanessa. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been that one. But I can still view that comment I'm here as well, so I can see the comments, I can record information, I can do all the same sorts of stuff I can do on the individual page on here. Okay, one of the things you can do here, so if I find one, I'll do it for this one. There's this tick box here on the left, assign achievement to whole groups. If I turn that on, if I click there and wait a while, it takes slightly longer, but it will apply that to the whole class. Okay, so you can do that. So where this screen works well is if you're using this with mainstream children all working at year 2, you can assess the whole class in one go really easily. Where this doesn't work so well is when you are working with children with SEND who are all working on different levels. Okay, so where that comes in is it only really works if they're working on the same level. Some are all working at year 2. If the children aren't, then this loses the effectiveness, and a lot of people use the individual assessment screen instead. But another screen you can use is group assessment by strand. So what group assessment by strand does is I choose a class, I choose English, I choose reading, but instead of choosing year 2, I can choose between word reading and comprehension. Or if I go to writing, I can choose between composition, handwriting, presentation, spelling, vocabulary. So if I have a look at composition, what this will now do is show me all the composition skills from the very bottom all the way through to the very top. So what that allows me to do is I can look at writing across my whole group. So the primary steps, the first one was the pre-key stage standard 1, pre-key stage standard 2, 3, and then I move on to year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, all the way through. So what's great about this, and my data is all over the place, but I can see Foxy, she's got most of the content on pre-key stage standard 1. I can scroll through and have a look where she's working. I can see that for some reason none of the children have any of these skills here, so I can look at doing intervention, but it just gives me that overview. I can look at that one area across multiple levels and see where they're working, what they can do. And it's also a screen which gets me working out a level at a time, because I'm just looking at composition. I'm not looking at within writing what overall level is she working at. I'm just looking at a composition and looking at what skills she can do. And I might find I might be working up at year 2, but maybe in a handwriting, she's down at pre-key stage standard 3. Okay, so it's a great way of just getting away from that level by level approach and thinking more about the child's skills, their next steps, and so on. Okay, so they're the 3 screens you would generally use for recording information. And on the group screens, if I click on the printer icon, I can print these out. What I'll just do is I'll go to the second level of this so you can see how it will look. So I've just clicked on the printer icon. So how we do it is that's how it will look. So with the every single level, it obviously goes over a number of pages, but as you can see here, we always, on every single page, always include the pupils' names at the top, so you don't have to stick 6 sheets together to work out which column a pupil is in. Each sheet will work on its own, so it's all sensible and nice and easy, which I keep saying a lot because it's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make your lives easier. So they're the 3 screens you'll use. How often you use them is up to you. Generally, when we talk to schools about doing data drops, I think a lot of our schools are doing it 6 times a year or 3 times a year, and more schools are going back to doing it 3 times a year, just because, and the government did a nice report on this, and one of the quotes was about having time to act on the data. So if in a 6-week period you haven't got a chance to look at the data, make decisions about the data and make changes about the data, should you collect data every 6 weeks, or should you leave it longer so that within that time frame you can think about what you're going to change, implement those changes and see if there is an impact. But if school is going to go back to doing data collections 3 times a year, it puts a bit more emphasis on the teacher's judgment. So actually them thinking about the pupil, because early intervention only works if you intervene early. If you're leaving it 3 times a year, it's not going to be that early. So it's going to be down to the teachers to think about and look at and raise concerns on their own. But within that 3 times a year period, within that, it's up to each teacher how they use it. So we have teachers who use this every day. We have teachers who use this once a week, once a fortnight, at the end of a project, or just 3 times a year. My recommendation, I think what would work well for me if I was doing it, is trying to find sort of a weekly way of doing it. So I would know on a Tuesday afternoon in my PPA time, I'll spend a bit of time doing this or doing it at home, whatever works for me, but just trying to get it in little and often rather than leaving it pile up. The more you use the system, the quicker you'll be at using it. The more it will all make sense, the more you can relate to it, the more useful you will find it, because you can use the information in other areas. If you're just doing this 3 times a year, you're not going to be using the information, you're not going to be getting much out of it. So you kind of have to question, why are you using it if you're just using it 3 times a year and nothing more? So my recommendation, use it more, makes life easier. The only comparison I've got to using our system with all our steps is imagine checking your email only 3 times a year. How long would it take you to go through your emails? If you think about all the statements across all the subjects for all your pupils, you're kind of looking at a large number. And can you realistically, after 3 months, record all that information correctly? It's much easier to maybe do it once a week, whatever suits your time, and just little and often. So I'm going to go back to the home screen. So I click on the home in the top left. So I've just gone through the assessment screen. What I'll do now is just move on to individual reports. So this is where you start to see how you can use what you've recorded. So I've got 7 reports here. The first 2 look at skills, the individual skills. The other 5 look at progress and attainment. And the 3 I recommend, and the 3 based on feedback that are the most popular at the moment, are the assessments to be mastered, assessments mastered, and the bar chart. So I'll make sure I show those ones. So I'm going to start with assessments to be mastered, and this is a nice simple one. So for Vanessa Kensington, who we were looking at earlier, looking at English, reading, current level. Okay, so I don't have to worry which level she's on. Current level will take me to her current level. If the current level is taking you to the completely wrong level, you probably haven't done a baseline, which I'll get to later. So what this screen is showing me, it's listing a lot of skills. What it is listing is all the skills a child hasn't achieved. So on this level, Vanessa's achieved 29%, so it's showing me the remaining 71. So it's showing me a lot of skills. If I just drop down to year 1, I'll probably see a different picture. So on this screen, the pupil has achieved over 80%. It's telling me the level has been completed. So it's just showing me what's the 19% that wasn't achieved on that level. So it's just giving me that list, what wasn't achieved on that level. And if I click on the printer icon in the top right, it changes the layout and gives me a nice printout. So I can see nice and easily what skills that child hadn't achieved on that level. So when you're talking having only a few skills, it's a really useful screen. The more skills there are, the less the use, because you're generally going to be working through those anyway. And you can see here, I can still see the markers for comments. I can still record information here. I can do a lot on this screen. Where this screen comes in useful is I might have a child, and I'll go back to year 1 and we'll pretend this isn't complete. And I might have a parent saying, okay, my child is still on for year 1 for a read and they've been on there for a while, why haven't they moved on? Instead of just saying, oh, they're really close, we're working on it, they're almost there, what you can do is print this out and show the parent, these are skills your child is struggling with, this is what we're focusing on, this is what we're working on, And this, if possible, if you could support us with this at home and reinforce these skills, then we hopefully will see more programs. This is what's preventing your child from moving on. So it's a great way of highlighting those barriers, but in a nice, easy to understand language. Okay, so that's assessments to be mastered. The next one is assessments mastered. So what this one does, so for Vanessa, looking at English, it defaults to 1 year, but I can change this to anything I want. So since we came back on the 3rd of September, what has Vanessa achieved in English? So it is looking at every skill across the whole of English that Vanessa has turned green in that time. Okay, so I was working on earlier, I was working on year 2, and you can see all the skills I've filled in today. Okay, and I also changed my date back to the 3rd of September. So you can see I've got a 3rd of September skill there, and I've got some skills in year 3. So they're all the skills I marked as achieved. And you can see here within reading, she's working year 2, year 3, year 4, somehow even year 6. But it's a great way of highlighting any progress, any achievement that child has made over that time frame. Rather than just looking at their current level, let's look at all the levels that child has worked on and celebrate what they can do, rather than ignoring what they can do because the government's said they can't achieve that yet. So for me, I love this report because it really celebrates what the child can achieve, what skills they've picked up. And again, I can print that out and I get to see all that stuff. So for me, they're great reports because it works outside of levels, not just level by level. But they're also still in a language parents can understand, and the parent might sit there and go, actually, I've seen them doing that. And again, they can relate to those skills as well. Next screen I'll go to is the level summary screen. So this one, it will look slightly different for every single framework, depending on the organisation. But what I see on the left is I get to see all the skills, all the areas, and all the levels across the top. Okay, so I get to see everything that's been recorded within this framework for that pupil. Okay, so we're just looking at Vanessa here on today's date. If I want, I can have a look at this for a year ago. That's up to me. So a couple of things. So anything with a date in shows me the percentage of that level that's been achieved. Anything with a date in tells me when that level was achieved. And anything which has a grey box in, and it comes up with a nice little red symbol, is that subject does not exist at that level. And why we've got a bit of a weird pattern here is because in the 2014 curriculum, the government moved to 16 topic areas of science, which you can see all listed here. But you do them in specific years. So if I look at seasonal changes, that should be done in year 1. And what we've done is differentiated all the way down to the bottom, but also gone a level up for spikiness. So we've done that all the different things. So you can see each area stops where that should be covered. Okay, so that's why it's all spiky. What you might see if you're in Scotland and you're using is with the Steps to Excellence, you will see in some areas you have an overall early or first, in others you have an early 1, early 2, early 3. If you're on the old national curriculum and P levels, what you will see, for instance, on speaking, listening, which are 3 separate areas, you will see that the speaking expressive and the listening receptive go from P1 up to P8. They then stop, and then spoken language, which was the old speaking, listening renamed, that doesn't exist P1 to P8, that starts at the old 1C, and that goes all the way up. Okay, so where you see a grey box, that subject does not exist at that level, and don't worry. Okay, and other areas, you can see here, I've got a 2C's grayed out, the 2B's grayed out, but the 2A isn't. That's because there is no 2C, 2B, 2A, it's just an overall level 2. Okay, so depending which framework you're looking at, you will see a slightly different layout, and you may see grey boxes appearing for different areas. So what I will mention now is I will touch on baselining. So if we look at geometry for Vanessa, so the status tells me where she is currently working. and it's telling me she's working on 17% of pre-key stage standard 1. And I can see here she's got 17% of pre-key stage standard 1, but she's got 59% of pre-key stage standard 2 and 45% of pre-key stage standard 3. So I would guess that she's probably actually working on pre-key stage standard 2, not pre-key stage standard 1. So why is the computer telling me she's working on pre-key stage standard 2? And the reason it's not telling me she's working on pre-key is because I haven't told the computer. Computers are really clever, but they're also really dumb at the same time. And with our software, unless you tell the system otherwise, that child is going to be at the very bottom in every single area. Okay, so even if I have 75% up in year 3 for geometry, unless I tell the system that's where that child is working, it's going to be down at pre-key stage standard 1. So if I want, and I'm going to pick pre-key stage standard 3, so if in geometry, Vanessa is working at pre-key stage standard 3, okay, so I want her to be there and I want the status to show she's working on pre-key stage standard 3, I need to mark pre-key stage standard 2 as complete, okay? And to do that, I've got this complete button. So I can click on complete, I tick level complete, and when you're doing this baseline, this date you should use is the date they joined the school or the date you started using B squared. Okay, don't just put in today's date because that can lead to horrible amounts of data. You'll nearly always, when you're baselining, change this date back. So I'm going to go back to the 1st of September, click on save, and what you will find, you can only go so far back. So if a pupil joined you on the 4th of September, you won't be able to go before the 4th of September. Okay, so I got my 1st September, I click save. As soon as I've done that, it's put the completed date in and it's given me a status of 45% of pre-key stage standard 3. Okay, so you can see that a couple of things. Hopefully it's quite easy, but what I don't have to fill in every level. So for this one all the way up here in states of matter, where the child is somehow working in year 4, I don't have to fill in all these boxes before, okay? I just have to put one complete level in. And if on that one, if I forgot to set that to the 1st of September, I can always come in, change it to the 1st of September and click save. Okay, if that one was a mistake, I shouldn't have recorded that one. I can click on the complete. I can turn off level complete. I'll turn back on use fit, best fit, which I'll get back, which I'll explain shortly. And I can click save. That will disappear. Child moves back to the beginning. Okay, so the baselining process is really important. So I would recommend for your pupils you're working with, come and have a look at this screen and have a look at this status column and do these values reflect where you think that child is working. If they do, great, you've got baselines in and it's working. If you think this child is working at year 1 or level 2 or progression step 6 or early 2, and this is saying something completely different, then you haven't done the baselining properly or someone hasn't done the baselining, you need to do baselining. Okay, and one of the things I'll do in the handouts, I'll put a guide on finding bad data and how to baseline. Okay, so that'll be up on our website tomorrow. So this status column is really important, not because it just should be correct, but anywhere we look at progress, that will be the level we look at progress. And it's also what took me to year 2 for English reading. So when I hit current level, it's basically using this status column to work out which level to go to. So if I did current level for spoken language, it's going to take me to year 3. If I did current level for states of matter, it's going to take me to year 4. So if I'm hitting that current level button and it's taking me down to pre-key stage standard 1 instead of somewhere else, I haven't got that status. So getting that status correct is a big important step. Once you've done that, the next few reports I show you will make sense and look nice. Okay. So what I've just gone to here is Pupil Summary. This is a nice, simple report. I warn you my data will be bad because I'm always muck around with it. But what I've just done is I've chosen Vanessa. I've chosen the time frame. So I've said since 3rd of September till today. Show me what that looks like. So what it's doing is telling me where the pupil is now, so the second date, and how much progress has there been since the first date. So it's a great way of getting a nice overview of the progress and attainment, and that doesn't look too bad. I'll change it a bit further back, and it'll probably go really bad now. So you can see now, somehow this child, since the 6th of March, has made 4 levels progress, almost 4 levels progress, over 2 levels progress, almost 6 levels progress. So by me doing that, I've got bad data. And generally, the reason for that is all my baselining I did was on the 1st of September. So if I go before that, my data will be really bad. So that's where that baseline date is really important, because if you go before the baseline date, you get these 4, 5, 6 levels worth of progress. If you go from that date onwards, progress changes and it makes it a lot nicer. So I've got all my subjects turned on. If I use the subject filter, what I can do, if I don't want to include all the areas of science, I can turn science off. I can use the subject filter to turn off everything apart from numeracy and literacy. If I don't want to use one of the areas, I don't use statistics, I can turn that off as well. Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility in that, and then I can click on the printer icon and print that out. Nice and easy. So pupil summary, it's a nice snapshot. Where are they now? What's the progress? I can look at progress over time in 3 different ways. So level progress is a screen which can be a grid full of numbers. A line graph will give me lines for all the different areas, and my colleague always jokes it looks a bit like a tube map with all the different colours and lines. I personally prefer the bar chart, and the reason for that is it's simple, it's visual, and especially now we've moved on to progression steps rather than P levels and levels, which is our own levelling system, which parents are not likely to understand easily because it's brand new and they won't find out more information on mums and there and the government. Because it's our own levelling system, it won't make as much sense to them. But what you can do here is the height of the bars, the comparing the different bars, looking at different areas. I can still understand a lot of information. So I can see that spoken language started off as the highest area this year, but she made absolutely no progress, nor in writing, but she started off low in reading, has passed. So I get to see a lot of information, and I get to see every single subject because I got them all turned on. But when I use this, I get a lot more information from here. I don't necessarily have to know what that scale's telling me. I get to compare the different areas and see where she's doing well, where she's not doing well. Okay, so that's the reason I like the bar chart, is it's simple and it's clear. So they're the ones I'm going to show you in the individual reports. If you want to have a look at the line graph and the progress, you can do. And as I said, you can use the filters on there as well. I'm just going to show you the group reports. So on the group reports, there are 4 reports, and these are similar to the individual reports. So with the level summary, pick my class, pick my framework, my area, and my date, click display, and what this will do, it's like the other level summary, but on the other level summary I was picking one pupil and looking at all the subjects. Here I can pick English reading and look at each child's status and look at their individual data. Okay, so you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3 children all on year 4. But I can see one child has a very sprightly profile and somehow has 51% upper grace depth and breadth, even though they're still on year 4. Another child has only achieved a few things above. Another child has achieved 40% of year 4, 35% of year 5. So very different profiles, even though they're technically all working on year 4. So that's a level summary. Again, I can do the progress, the line graph, and I can also do a bar chart. So with the bar chart, again, I'm not picking one pupil, I'm picking a group. I'm picking a subject, and I'm now looking at their progress over a period of time. So again, I get a lot of information from this graph. So I can see that Vanessa Kensington has made the most progress in English reading, whereas number 2's made the least. They've made absolutely no progress. Looks like, I would say, so Austin was technically the highest achiever at the beginning. Vanessa was the lowest. Fox is now the highest achiever. So I get to get an overview of my class and does this data reflect what I know? Are there any surprises here? And what's going on with Austin and number 2? As the highest achievers at the start, I should have expected more progress from them. Have I just realised I haven't entered any data for number 2, and that's why there's no progress? So it's just a nice and simple way of looking at your pupils and just having a think about the progress and what that data shows you. Okay, cool. So I think I've covered most of the things I wanted to cover in this webinar. The bit I just want to go on to is, when is a level complete? So if I hit current level again, what I'm going to see here is it's taking me to year 2, where she's on 29%. And in the system, we have what's called a best fit percentage. Okay, so if I click on the cog in the top right and click about, you will see my best fit percentage is set to 80%. Okay, so what that means is, as soon as this level goes over 80% complete, okay, this level will get marked as complete by the system. So if I have a look at the previous level, so year 1, you will see instead of having a percentage complete, it's got a date because this level is achieved. If I click on the complete box, do that, use best fit, refresh that, that should be, there we go. So although this level is over 80%, this level hasn't everything got achieved. The reason it's complete is because that pupil has gone over 80%. Okay, so 42 out of 52 works out about 81%. Okay, if I delete one of these, so if I go to history, I delete that, the percentage complete has come back because he's dropped below the 80%. Okay, if I mark this as achieved on September the 13th, okay, what it actually did is it noticed that the last achievement was on the 5th of November. So although I'd put it on the 13th of September, it went over 80% on the 5th of November because of other content, and that's when that level is complete. Okay, so what that tells me is I don't have to achieve everything on this level for this level to be complete. Okay, in my school, I've got 20% spare, as it were, so I only have to achieve 80%, and the majority of our schools use 80 or 85%. Okay, so to find out in your school, if you click on the cog and click on about, you will see best fit and then the percentage. So it'll show you there, and you can find out what your best fit is. Okay, so and most of the time that will work really well, and that will do exactly what you need. However, there are some times where, based on the child's needs, you might be on 65% complete and they'll never achieve any more of that level. Okay, what you can do then is your professional judgment is I can mark a level as complete whenever I want. So just like we did in the baselining, I can say level complete, I'm going to leave it as today and click save. As soon as I've done that, it shows me the level is complete, but the boxes were left exactly as they are. So I can go to the level status, I can bring up the pie chart and see what has been achieved, what hasn't. Now, you wouldn't do it as low as 29%, I hope. But there are times where you may get to 70% and you might be on the reading and you're hitting the load of phonics stuff and that child is non-verbal, and you're looking at things like that. So it's not a case of you have to achieve 80%, that's what you're aiming for, but you can always use your professional judgment to overrule that and mark a level as complete earlier. Okay, so that is up to you, it's up to your professional judgment. And the other bit I'll mention, which you can see here, I've got a grey cross. Now, I haven't mentioned them before because they are dangerous. They are there. It's up to you if you want to use them as a school. But what I can do is I can mark an assessment as not applicable. Okay, and when I do that, that assessment point is ignored when working at the percentage complete. So if I click not applicable and I mark one complete and I'll do another one, the percentage complete has gone up, even though the child hasn't achieved any new skills, because those skills are being ignored. Okay, so it sounds great because you can get rid of stuff they can't do. However, what I would say in most situations, as we're working towards the government's aims, the objectives, and what they want, generally, most of these skills will actually apply. So I wouldn't mark things as not applicable. If you do mark something as not applicable, you can't actually overwrite it. You do have to delete it first. Where I would use not applicable is if there is something you don't do in the school. It depends on your school, the content in here, and the framework you're using. If there's something in here which you don't do and you can't assess, there's no point in having that holding that child back from making progress. So that's where I would use not applicable. And I generally recommend that before you use not applicable, please chat to the senior leadership team just to make sure they're aware of you doing that and it's for the right reasons. So that's generally everything. So I'm just going to bring back slideshow, bring this back and go from there. And switch my screen over so I'm on the right screen. Hopefully you can see that. Cool. So questions for your school. So hopefully I've shown you generally how to use it, how the system works and things you can do with it. But you need to go back to your school and you've got a couple of questions to ask. So how will it be used in your setting? So the first one is, how does it need to be updated? When are your data drops? How often? That sort of stuff. Do you get any time? So some schools have assessment weeks. Just finding that out. What levels of engagement are you using as a school? If the answer is currently none, please get them to contact us because we really recommend using 2 or maybe 3. It really has benefits for those making smaller sets of progress. What's your best fit set to? So you can have a look under that about box and you can see that. And what reports are you using to share information? So you're doing all this recording and connecting steps, but what information are you using from connecting steps and sharing with other people? So I would go back and ask those questions. And now we're at the Q&A section. I've just noticed that I've overrun for about 15-20 minutes. Hopefully you're all still with me and finding this really useful. But as I said earlier, the next training webinar next month is moving on. So if everything I've covered for you, you're going, I've got all this, I now need to move more with it, then you can register for the next one, which is moving on, which is more looking at how you're using connecting steps within your school, what you're doing with it. If you have any questions about what I've shown you here, or something like, actually, I don't know what that is, or something like that, you can always arrange a free online meeting, which works a bit like this, but I get to answer your questions directly and I'll share my screen and go through the software, so they're really useful. Thank you for attending the webinar. Hopefully by attending this, you're going to get more out of connecting steps and be more successful with it, which is what we're aiming for. And hopefully this has really benefited you. At the bottom right, you've got my contact details. So you've got my email, phone number, so you can just drop me a call or send me an email. So I've got a couple of questions come in already. If you have any questions, please just type them in the chat window. So the first one, okay, so when I was showing comments, there is a bit at the bottom about tags. What are the tags for? And that is, it's one of those features we looked at using and no one's really used it yet, so we haven't done anything with it. But the idea is if people do start to use it, we can then filter comments by tags. So I can look at all the tags, all the comments with this tag. At the moment, no one's really using that from our monitoring, so we haven't put that feature in and no one's really asked for it. Okay, oh, sorry, Roz, who had issue with sound. The recording of this webinar will be on our website, hopefully tomorrow. And yeah, feel free to watch it and share it with everyone as you need. Okay, so this is a question relevant to the Scottish Framework Steps to Excellence from Lindsay. I did a new levels afterwards. If you have a completed level, it will ignore the pre-levels. So if you have a level marked off as complete in early, it will ignore all the stuff beneath that. And that will only be for the numeracy, literacy at the moment. For the 4 foundation areas, you can just ignore them. It's one of the things I don't like about the foundation areas because it just makes your data a bit messy. Katie's asked, does the system work on mobile devices? There is a Connecting Steps app for iPads only at the moment. We are looking at completely redoing the app next year. If you just go to the App Store on your iPad and search for Connecting Steps, you can use an iPad to record your assessments. I generally recommend using it on the computer to set things up, to do the baselining. Once you've done that, you can then use the app for the ongoing recording and writing comments. Okay, cool. A couple other questions. So Marianne has asked, can anyone delete an achievement or just the person who originally inputted the achievement? With that, anyone can delete anyone's achievement, but as I showed, you might not have seen it, everything is audited. So the system will tell you who entered an achievement, but what it will also do is tell you who deleted something. So generally, the fact we do that, generally everyone behaves. If someone has a disagreement that one teacher says a child can do something, another teacher says it can't, generally by knowing who it was, you can go have a conversation with that person and work out how you solve your differences on the opinions. It might be that in one situation they do it, in another situation they don't, and it's more of a choice. It could be one's before the summer holiday and one's after. There's lots of reasons why it might be different, but it's great to be able to identify who says they can and who says they can't. Comments can be edited by a person who wrote them. So most of those comments are mine, so I could edit them. And I think only the person who wrote them can delete them as well. Okay. Alistair has asked, how do you set targets for learners within the system? At the moment, even with CSAM, we don't have targeting, partly because we're still trying to work out a better way of targeting. So a lot of people use very generic targets of 30% progress for every child in the school and then just use that. We want to set individualized targets, but especially when you start looking at spiky profiles, the traditional way of setting a percentage progress or an attainment point isn't the best way, so we're looking at that. But if you go to our blog, so I'll just bring that up on here. On our website, if you go to the blog, the top one at the moment is the Autism Progress webinar I did last week with Jasmine Miller. Then it's response to the review of the engagements, so children working below P4. But beneath that, you will hit our What is Good Progress webinar. So this is generally looking at the new frameworks like primary steps and progression steps. And it's about how do you judge what is good progress. But as part of that, for the new primary steps and progression steps, I have put in some sort of ideas of the sort of progress you should be looking for. So that way it gives you ideas for teachers this year what they should be aiming for. Changing over to these new frameworks is always interesting because you haven't got any historic data. You've got to start from scratch, and these are brand new, so teachers are struggling, but that will hopefully help teachers setting targets for this year, and then next year they can start using historic data and using that to set their targets. So got a couple of questions about groups. So within the system, there are a couple of different group types. So the default is a registration. Okay, so the registration are, I would say, like your tutor groups in secondary school. So each child can only be in one tutor group or one registration group. Okay. But the pupils in that group can be of any age. They don't all have to be year 8 or year 7. They can be year 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever your reason. So especially when you get schools with only a few number of pupils, you can just leave everyone in the default class because it makes it easier to find the different pupils. But what you can also do is you can set up what's called diversity groups. And diversity groups are generally used for the analysis, but you can use them for other reasons. It's where you just want pupils from either a subset of a group, a subset of a registration group, or if you're in an early year setting, all those in on Tuesday. So whatever your reason for creating that group, you can create diversity groups and it will find the pupils from the different groups. You can update them within that group and it will update them with their main data. Okay, so with the groups, they don't have to be in the same years. It's however you want to arrange them. So if you're using connecting steps in a mainstream primary, you've only got 15 children, you can either put them all in one group called default, or you maybe might have a Key Stage 1 group or a Key Stage 2 group, whatever works for you. Sarah's also asked, can I print out a set of paper versions? So we'd rather not kill trees every year, so we do make printing a little bit annoying, although we will be doing bulk printing in the future. If I click on this printer icon, I can print out a page at a time. And if you're trying to print out lots of pages, it gets a little bit tedious. If you send our support team a ticket, so if you just search for something in here, won't find it, I can hit send a message, I can type in my email address, and I can just ask, please, can you send me a paper copy or a PDF of all our content? And what our support team will do, as long as you've paid your bill, is we will send you an email with a PDF attachment with basically a blank copy of everything. And it's often useful, especially when you're when you're new to B Squared or it's a new framework. It helps to get that overview by having all the content together and just seeing how it changes. Printing comments. So if I click on the comments here and view comments, again, I've got that printer icon there. So we've tried to put that icon on every single screen you would want to print out, and that will allow me to print those comments out to share with parents. Can I do a group report by subject overall? That's what CSAM kind of does. So CSAM is your whole school analysis. So I've got my different frameworks here. So if I go back to the LP levels and national curriculum, I can do pupil premium, but I can do any group I want, looking at the overall English, overall maths. So if I do cohort and leave it as all, I can look at English for the whole school between any dates. I won't go into that, but that's what CSAM about. And again, on our blog page, you'll see there's a webinar on CSAM, which will go more in depth, and you can see what CSAM can do. Okay, so John's asked about almost basically creating your own content. So looking at what you're doing, cross-curricular, so involves designing a product, marketing it. This involves a variety of skills. At the moment, no. I think a lot of that does come under our DT, the designing, evaluating, all that sort of stuff. So a lot of that is in our DT. One of the things you can do, paper-based exercise, but you can copy and paste targets out. So you can copy and paste it out. It's not the best way, and you can put English ER year 2 type thing as references. That way you can link it all together. At the moment we can't. I'm always scared of allowing schools to do their own. But what we have been working on, and what we do a lot of, is if we think what somebody wants has value, so if we think you're not the only person going to be asking for it, we do work with schools to make content. So one of the things we've been working with at the moment, which is just about finished, is performing arts. So a school we've worked with, and a few have asked for it, so we've done the performing arts for the progression steps. All the stuff we're doing for Scotland, We've worked with 2 schools, and Lindsay, who's in this webinar listening, has done a lot of work and been heavily involved in that. And we're also working with PECs to develop content there as well. So if it's something we think's got a lot of use, we are open to working with schools to do that. Another question from the overall subject reports, that's covered in the CSAM. Sarah, I'm glad you found it really useful. Hopefully I've answered everyone's questions. We try and keep these short, but these ones generally do go on because there's quite a bit to cover in what you do and then getting the best out of it and so on. But if anyone has any other questions, please fire them away. Otherwise, I will be ending this shortly. And as I said before, if you've enjoyed this and you want to move on in a month's time or just after Christmas in the new year, I'll be running Moving On with Connecting Sets, which looks about how you'll use Connecting Set in your school, what you'll use, and all that sort of stuff, rather than having as a bolting on the side, how you really make use of it and get your money's worth out of the system. So thank you once again for attending, and hopefully you'll join us again in the future. One of the ones I will be doing in the future, so if you like the idea of this, please let me know, is somebody asked for a webinar on how to use Excel. Sounds really boring. There's a lot you can do in Excel, and a lot of people don't realise. So that's one of the ones we're looking at doing. So if you are interested in learning more about Excel and the lovely joys of using spreadsheets, although not the most interesting thing, it can do a lot which can save you time. What I'll be doing with Excel is I've made spreadsheets for schools which are really powerful, really useful. And I think you can do a lot in Excel which isn't hard, but you just need to know a few bits first. So it's just showing you what you can do with Excel. So how you can use the filtering, sorting, averaging, conditional formatting to make it all coloured for you, to make it pretty, and that sort of stuff. That's what I'll be covering in the webinar. Hopefully not too boring, hopefully interesting, that people can use, not just for our data, but any data really. Okay. I don't know when the Excel webinar is. It was something which came up in a conversation last week with a school, but it will probably, if I have to do a bit more planning, it will probably be February, will be my guess, depending on what else comes up. Because one of the ones we want to do is a webinar on Eversense, just showing people how easy it is to use, and also we'll have a new Eversense app in the new year, which will be really, really nice and just show the benefits of the new app. But February or March would be my guess for the Excel webinar. So unless anyone has any other questions, I will be ending this webinar. But thanks again for joining. Thank you. Enjoy your evening.